I think we're live. I'm pretty sure we're live. Part 2, how to make melodies. We're live on YouTube. In this live stream, this is basically a mini masterclass on how to make melodies. Today we're going to do piano melodies, guitar melodies, and we'll get into some synth stuff. But I want to thank everybody watching the replay. I want to thank everybody who pops in live. If you guys want a chord code chart for free, just come join us on Discord. Here's the link. I'll pin it to the chat. It's discord.gg/busyworksbeats. We have 89,000 folks in there, I want to say. Click here for free chord code chart. What up, YouTube? So it's discord.gg/busyworksbeats. I'll pin it to the top of the chat so you guys don't lose that link. But once you hop in our Discord, you can gain access to a chord code chart for free. The chord code chart will be really important for today. All right, what's going on? YouTube is here. King Flash, Young Man is here. Epic LED, what up? Biggie's here. What up, Audio Geek Beats? Neo Producer is here. Hey, yo, I'm not late this time. Hilarious. What's going on? Life's going on. Chris Griffith is here. We got Young Man. I've been watching your videos since 2022 and I can't learn a lot. What? I've been watching your videos since 2022 and I learned a lot. So I think he meant to say I learned a lot, but it's all good. I'll screenshot that. We'll post that up to Instagram. Thank you for your testimonial. So if you don't know me from a hole in the wall, my name is Game from busyworksbeats.com. We train over 1 million producers around the world. So we're going to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Lil Baby, Polo G, Trippie Redd, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and a long list of folks that I haven't even documented. So I kind of lost track. Pedro is here. What up? Doozy is back. What's going on? How do you make melodies? Good question. Now we're doing all this MIDI. I want to be clear. This is not me I'm not going to plug in a guitar and then start playing my guitar. We're going to show you how to do this in MIDI, aka through FL Studio. Fresh Chuck is here. All right, let's get this thing started. We have a lot of people in here. So without further ado, I just wanted to say what's up. Daniel's here. What up? Okay, you chilling audio? Pedro says I have a problem with melodies. No worries. Once you watch this video, you'll have a better grasp around it. Omalemo, what up? Michael's here. Swamp Boy. Okay, so let's hop straight into it. So without further ado, again, today will be basically a mini masterclass. If you have questions, try to hold them off until we finish a concept. And then if you do have a big question, just at busyworksbeats, and then it'll show up as a different color on my screen so I could quickly see what a question is versus a comment. Clutch Beats is here. I've been watching your videos. One of my friends recommended me to watch your videos and learned a lot on how to make melodies and how to use FL shortcuts. Thank you. King Flash, appreciate you for that. Another testimonial in the books. I'll post these up to Instagram. Thank you. Let me save this real fast. All right. Okay. What's the best sound to use on Flex for simple melodies? I don't like Flex at all, to be honest with you. If anything, the general MIDI sounds are okay. Let's start with Flex. Let's kind of see what we can do. But I'm being transparent with you guys. I don't like Flex. The sounds in here are very thin to me, comparatively. Some to be used for Lil Wayne or J. Cole. So you want organic tones. We might get into sound selection today, but the gist of it is you have synthetic sounds and you have real sounds. Real sounds are your guitars, your pianos. Think of stringed instruments like in real life. Guitar, piano, violin, viola, cello. These are all stringed instruments and they're real instruments. Okay, and so our ear understands the difference between real and fake. And so you want to, as a producer, most of the time create a realism even if it's fake. So there's something in film, Disney introduced this, it's called the suspension of disbelief. The reason we can watch CGI films, we know it's fake, but only when something is out of the context do we get pulled out of that story. What does that mean? So for example, if you guys watch SpongeBob, you know that SpongeBob is as cartoony as it gets, but because we're engulfed in that imaginary environment, everything is the same, the context is the same, they're all underwater, they're all the same kind of cartoon style, they're all, you know, it all makes sense in their world. Now the moment they turn into the moment you see like a human hand in SpongeBob, you're like, oh, that just broke the wall of suspension of disbelief. Now it's separated the imaginary world from the real world, visually speaking. And what we want to do as music producers is, even if we're using synthetic sounds, we want to create an environment to where it's cohesive. You don't want to add something that's jarringly not of that context, because that will pull people out of what's called the suspension of disbelief. I know that was a lot, to take in. But that's kind of the core psychology behind it. Now there are synthetic sounds like your synthesizers, your sawtooth, your sine wave, your pulse wave, your triangle wave, your filters, your comb filters, all that type of stuff. That's synthetic sound. Organic sound are your real instruments, your trumpets, your violins, your piano, your guitar. Why do I say it this way? Because you'll realize that different styles of artists go different pathways. So when you said Lil Wayne and J. Cole is more organic. It's going to be the tones that are more organic and lower frequency, warm, we'll say. So anyhow, we can get into the fine details later. Anyone know why Flex shows offline? I don't know what that means. By chance, do you have Instagram? Just asking. Yeah, it's at BusyWorksBeats on Instagram. I'll post you guys' testimonials up there. SS Fame, loving the FL24 tutorials. Thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to cover here, let's see how many people we got in here before I just give you guys the sauce. So this is sauce. All right, I'm about to give y'all like a real course that I would usually make people pay $100 for. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is intervallic resolution. The reason I'm showing you guys on YouTube is I want to show you how deep melody goes. I think people don't understand how deep music theory goes, and they don't realize how important it is until it's too late. Okay, so if you want to get past beat block, if you want to make more genres, you're tired of making trap, okay, you want to make funk, R&B, lo-fi, pop music, rock music even, you want to make new jazz, you want to make all these other genres, you have to understand music theory because there's a reason why all those things sound different. It comes down to the musical notes, but also the technique as well, and the instrumentation. Okay, so this is what we're going to show you is how to get past that. So firstly, we're going to talk about intervallic resolution. I'll demonstrate this using a piano. Let me switch this sound. See how that's a synthetic sound? Let's switch this to, somebody asked me what's the best sound in Flex. All the essentials, if you go to Get, download the essentials packs, which are free if you have an account with FL Studio, and basically just use the essential packs or use the general MIDI library. You're gonna get pretty decent sounds. Everything else is kind of synthetic and weird sounding to me. So we're gonna use a Steinway. What I do like to do is turn off the limiter, turn off the reverb. Also, let me make sure my cam isn't too big. Hold on, y'all. Okay, because sometimes I forget to make my cam smaller. What up, Jambi? Steve Eggers is here. So we're gonna turn off all these effects. The reason why we want a dry sound. Let's right click, let's go to piano roll. So sauce is about to be spilled. So I need y'all to smash the like button. We're about to drop nuclear bombs here. Intervallic resolution is a deep science. Do I memorize everything? No, but it's so built into my psyche that I kind of do it without trying to understand everything about it. Grabbing a pen and book. Yeah, this is the part. So wherever you start in a scale, now we're not gonna reference a scale here. We're just gonna call these notes, okay? We're gonna call this a tonic. A tonic is the tonal center of your track. Most of the time when you start melodies, you start on what's called the tonic. It's the point of rest. The reason we start here is because we want to create the expectation that we're going away to something and then coming back. What's up, Feather? Okay, so what I'm gonna show you guys is called intervallic resolution. Now I said that 3 times so that you could really get the gist. Okay, so let's do what's called the tresillo pattern, which is da, 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 okay? But then we're gonna use what's called intervallic resolution. I learned how to use FL Studio in 2 days. W, shout out to you. There you go, applying the knowledge. Now we have so there are things called intervals. In melody, you have intervals. Interval is a distance between one note and the next. What's up, Black Age? So we're gonna take this note and we're gonna pull it up 1 half step. A half step is extremely important in music production. Even in hip hop and Tay Keith beats, they might use 2 notes, but it sounds hard in the bass. And that's because the half step always wants to resolve. It creates so much tension because our ear assumes that it's going out of key, and we're like, that dissonance of where we started versus where we went, and then we want to pull it back. When you get into sound design, you'll understand what this means. I'll kind of give you the advanced explanation and then we'll get back to it. The advanced explanation is that this note C, whoops, this note C is 100 cents away from the next note. Our ear is trying to determine, let me show you in Serum, just to really like make this a point. Let's see here, where's Serum? Now I'm going deep so that you guys have the why. Like a lot of people don't understand melodies because people don't explain why. So here's why. This is a sawtooth. This is your mind on drugs. Explain. This is a sawtooth. And what we can do is pull the sawtooth out of tune up to 100 cents each way, positive and negative. So what happens if I hit the sawtooth? So our ear, I technically went up 100 cents, but your ear is still trying to figure out what is happening. And what my point to you is that if the distance between each note is 100 cents, the ear gets confused about the in-between. So if I'm at 90 detune, my ear still might think that that's the tonic, because technically it is. Okay, it's an in-between note. Okay, so when we're dealing with half steps, our ear can't really decipher. It's trying to decipher where we are as far as tonality. That's why the half step is one of the strongest intervals to resolve. Okay, so when I say resolve, I mean complete an idea. See how we went? It wants to come back down. Half steps want to come back down. If you go down a half step, you want to go back up a half step. Half steps are like, like pulling a rubber band. It wants to snap back. One of my friends is a beat maker, engineer, producer, and he was telling me that I should check out your channel, and I wrote down every last shortcut of FL I learned. That's fire. Shout out to your friend. That's a real friend. Putting you on game. You want people who want to lift you up for free, that don't even need compensation to send you dope stuff. That's a friend. The definition of friend for me is very high level. So that's a dope acquaintance / potential friend for you. I learned in 2 days with your tutorials. I mean, dope. Thank you, Feather. I'll screenshot this testimonial. Thank you. Again, I appreciate y'all just showing respect. It really does mean a lot, because we have people searching up my name on Google, and then Reddit pops up, and it's just some hater / probably a competitor put out some fake Reddit post, and now people, they don't do any more research than Reddit. So it's like, what the freak? People lying on us. Okay. To think that is a movie, 12 FPS, frame per second. All right, so here I'm gonna get into it, and then you guys could give me your questions, okay? So give me a second. So right now we're talking about the minor second. You don't have to memorize this, but one semitone from the tonic is called the minor second. How many people we got in here? We have a lot of people in here. This is called the minor second. So the minor second wants to resolve back to the tonic because of that dissonance. Why does it create dissonance though? You're gonna hear people talk about dissonance and stable when it comes to intervals. Why is it dissonant though? Nobody ever tells you why. It's dissonant because the ear is trying to differentiate how far we went away from the tonic and if it's onto the next note, which I just showed you guys in Serum. So that's why it's dissonant. It comes down to our perception of tone, okay? And it wants to resolve back to the nearest stable note. So the half step up could also resolve to the next stable note. And we'll get into what stable notes are. For now, we're just gonna consider stable the tonic, okay? There's a lot more I need to teach you guys, but we're just gonna keep it basic for now. Now the next interval is 2 semitones up from the tonic. Okay, so when we're talking about intervals, excuse me, I'm going to talk about them in their distance from the tonic in this case. Here we have the major second, and the major second wants to resolve to the tonic, okay? Or, and this is where we're going to bring in the variation here, or wants to resolve to what's called the mediant. So the mediant is the third of the scale. There's a lot that I didn't cover. What's up, Rock City Hot Boy? I remember that song. Aux Chord is here. This is an awesome class I'm willing to take for 8 hours a weekday. Thank you. And okay, so this is where we start creating variation. So in music, most people ask me like, what note should I add next? And my answer to them is it could be this or it could be that. There's 2 pathways. And just think of the pathways of melody as resolving or more exploration. Okay, so we could explore more or we could resolve. It's almost like a sentence. Like, do I want to make my sentence concise, or would I like to make my sentence longer by adding in information and keeping it super long and interesting and adding more detail until the sentence is complete? And when you think of it that way, it just makes more sense with melody. We're either trying to resolve the idea, make it shorter, or make it longer, okay? So here we're using what's called the major second, and it wants to resolve to the tonic, which is this note, or the mediant. Now, what is the mediant? It's the 3rd scale degree. I would kind of teach you guys about scale degrees here, but it's a little complex. Especially, I want you guys to not think about a scale when we're talking about melody too. I want you to just think about it in intervallic steps. But the mediant is the third scale degree. So this is the first, or the tonic. Then we have the supertonic, or the second scale degree. Then we have the mediant, or the third scale degree. Don't memorize this, you know. Then we have what's called the subdominant, or the fourth, because sub means below, super means above. So we have the tonic, then we have the supertonic, meaning above the tonic. We have the mediant. Think of the mediant like a middle ground. Wait, is that the same thing you taught music theory magic? Kind of. But this one, I'm going to give people, I know I'm kind of giving the sauce, Swamp Boy. So Swamp Boy knows about the intervallic resolution. Yes. I'll say yes to your question, but I'm not going to give it like all the detail about the back end. Here we have the tonic, the supertonic. This is the mediant. Think of it like a middle ground, stable note. Then we have the subdominant, and because sub means below, and the dominant note. So as I'm teaching you guys this melody stuff, the dominant always wants to go back to the tonic. And most of the notes of a scale want to go to the dominant note, if not the tonic. Okay? And why is that? It's because of the perfect fifth, perfect fourth. It's called perfect because it's a perfect ratio. It always harmonizes. And so we dig into this, and I'm not trying to confuse beginners here, but basically the fifth is 7 semitones up from the tonic, and the fifth to the tonic is 5 semitones, which is a perfect fourth. So it's called perfect fifth and perfect fourth because notes tend to want to go to these spots as you're making your melody. Okay, so I know I'm kind of giving you guys a broad scope, but once we get over the basics and then we start applying this, it will all make sense. Juilliard approach, dope. Then we have what's called the dominant, and then we have here, now this is what's quirky, is that the 6th scale degree is called the technical name is called the submediant. And you're like, why is it the submediant if the mediant is not B? Or excuse me, I said submediant. Yeah, submediant is the 6th. It's gonna get advanced, but you'll understand it later. Is that how to identify a chord? Let's make a 7th chord, for example. Let's make a minor 7th chord. So here's what a minor 7th chord sounds like. Now what happens if I take out the third? It still has the same vibe. It's because a chord is identified by its third or the 7th. Why? It's because it said I disconnected. Oh, are we live? It said I disconnected and then I reconnected. Are we live? Can y'all hear me? Just want to make sure. Just give me a yes in the chat if y'all can hear me. I want to say I've been watching you about 6 to 7 years. Wow. I always learn something new from you, bro. Thank you. That's a fire testimonial. Thank you, Screwface. First of all, you're loyal for being here that long. And I'm just excited that I could grow enough to share more with you. That's all I want to do is just keep growing and sharing stuff. Okay, y'all can hear me? Okay, so OBS kind of freaked out for a second. Sorry about that. Maybe I'm dropping too much sauce. What's up, Ascending Keys? Okay, so what I'm telling you guys is the distance from the tonic to the third, whether the minor third or the major third, it doesn't matter. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3 in this case, which is a minor third. Now what happens if we start from the perfect fifth? Which again, think of the perfect fifth like a parallel of the tonic in a way, like its twin brother. Okay, if we start at the perfect fifth and we count up 1, 2, 3, it's the same distance between the perfect fifth and the 7th that it is from the tonic and the third. Okay, what the difference is just that these are pulled up 7 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the only difference. So it's the same ratio, the same distance, and that's why we can take out the third of a 7th chord and it still feels like a 7th chord, or we could take out the 7th and it's still identified as the minor chord or the major chord in that case. So this 6th, the reason why it's called the submediant, below the mediant, the 6th, is because the 7 is technically considered the third, because this is what creates the identity for the actual chord type. I know that was like really advanced, okay, but that's why the 6th is called the submediant, okay, because it's below the mediant, which is this note, just raised up 7 notes. It's below that, okay, so this is what it means by submediant. Okay, and this 6th wants to result. Now I think we jumped way far ahead, so let's go all the way back. Okay, so let's see. So here's the tonic, meaning that it's already stable, doesn't need to resolve. Okay, then we have what's called a half step up, or the minor second. It likes to resolve back down a half step to the tonic. And you guys have heard this a million times with Tay Keith beats. You know, it's that same bass line, okay? You guys have heard that 1,000 times. You got massive haters in here. Thank you, I hope, and enjoy an amazing day. What up? Always good to check in and refresh your live. Always learn newer and things. There you go. It's a good perspective to have. Okay, now we're on to what's called the major second. It likes to resolve back to the tonic or the median. So this is why I have two variations of the same interval. We're looking at here, the major second. It wants to either resolve here or here. So let's hear this in context. Now, does that feel complete to you? Now, one is completing and one is taking us somewhere. Okay, so this is why I said in melody, when you think about intervals as either trying to take you somewhere or trying to end that sentence, you'll understand resolution versus, you know, some of the variables that you can get with intervallic resolution. I'm going to go a little bit quicker because this is going to take quite a bit of the time. Because really what you guys are learning is ear training for now, and then we're going to get into application. So nextly, we're on the major second, which is 2 semitones up from the tonic. Now let's move to the minor third, which is the most common interval I would say that you guys are using in your chords and stuff. So the minor third resolves back to the tonic because the third is stable. They call it stable. And why is it stable? Why is it called the mediant? Because it's the middle ground, okay? So it wants to come back to the tonic, but also it could move to what's called the dominant. So you guys have to understand how important the dominant note is in a scale. Dominant is so strong because it wants to go back to the tonic. So think of the dominant like, I'm trying to think of an example. If you guys ever play Halo and you ever went on those like airlifter things, that's what the dominant is. It wants to shoot you back to the tonic. Or if you, maybe a teleporter might be a better example, where you walk into a teleporter and it brings you exactly to the other side of the map or wherever the other teleporter is. That's what the fifth is, or the dominant to the tonic relationship. It always wants to go back to the tonic and vice versa. You know, if you go the other way through the teleporters, it takes you from the tonic to the fifth and then back, et cetera, because think of them like twin flames. So here we have what's called the minor third, and this creates the minor tonality. You know, what's the purpose of an interval? It creates a minor tonality, okay? In this case, it's not creating tension like those other intervals. It's trying to just create tonality. And this likes to resolve stepwise to stable notes. Okay, and then to decide where you go from here. Now, again, we all do this by ear. There's no written rule that you have to follow. I just want to be clear about that. These are just explaining, if you don't know where to go with your melody, how to go to the next note. The dominant is always 7 semitones away from the tonic, yes. Quick question, in the minor scale and the major scale, the second is a whole step from the root. Why is this half step note from the root called a minor second if it isn't in the minor scale of the root? That's a great question. You know, I don't know where they came up with the nomenclature. I'm not sure the logic behind that, Warren, because like you said, what Warren's asking basically is why is it called the second if it's 2 semitones? Because in the natural minor scale, if we start at A, the second of the scale is technically 2 semitones away. And if I make the major scale, I'll just do A major, it's the same distance. So this has the same name, the second. This is a minor second, minor scale, and this is a major scale, but they're both the same note. So why is it called the minor second if it's different from the major second? Again, I don't know where that name came from, to be honest with you. It's just, you got to ask the inventors of the name. That's a great question, though. I don't have a reason why. It's just one of those things. So as we move deeper, we have the minor third. Again, it just adds that tonality. Now let's move up to what's called the major third. Now the difference between a minor chord and a major chord is the third. And this is why, I'll try to crystallize this as best as I can, so pray for me. The reason the mediant is the mediant is because this identifies the tonality or the DNA of a chord, okay? The reason the fifth is so prominent is because it never changes, okay? So when I look at this, let me get really advanced for you guys and maybe this will translate. So remember I told you guys that the mediant is considered like a stable note, just the middle ground note, as well as the tonic and the perfect fifth. if we look at what the median actually is, okay, which is the third of a specific scale, but in this case, we're speaking half scale degrees, half intervals. So I'm trying to like have dual conversations here. But the identity to a chord is based on the third. So for example, if this note is 3 semitones away from the root note, 0, 1, 2, 3, this creates a minor tone. And I think I actually had that as, that's a minor chord. 0, 3, 7. And if you guys want a free chord code chart, I know I'm kind of speaking very fast and going very advanced, but I'm skipping a lot of the beginning level stuff because it will take 5 hours to explain all this. But if you guys go to discord.gg/busyworksbeats, I prepared a chord code chart for you guys that you can download straight to your phone. It has all the chord codes per chord. Basically, think of chord codes like DNA for a chord. That's basically what it is. A minor chord is 0, 3, 7. So it's 0, the root note, and then count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It always, and we're talking about semitones here, and that always creates a minor chord. Whereas the major chord, the difference between a major chord and a minor chord is the median. It's that third, because a major chord is 0, 4, 7. So it's 0, your tonic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that creates the major tone. Okay, so that is the difference between major and minor. So if, you know, try not to be super advanced for you guys. If I raise these, if I duplicate these notes and I raise them up 7 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we just added the 7th scale degree. Just basically copying the same distance, just from a different point. So the median is important because it mirrors itself similar to the way the tonic mirrors itself to the 5th. I know that was a lot to take in. I don't expect people to memorize that. Okay, but I'm just explaining the why behind some of this stuff. Okay, we're gonna move a little bit quicker here. So we're at the what? The minor third, and then we move to the major third. So the major third wants to resolve to the tonic or the dominant. So here's where we get into, do you want to take the melody outward or do you want to complete the melody? If you want to complete the melody, you're going to bring it back to the tonic. If you want to take it further, you take it to the dominant. Now we're going to move into an interesting interval, especially for bass, called the perfect fourth. The reason it's called a perfect fourth is because it always is harmonious with the tonic. Okay, it always works. The Discord has a bunch of free drum kits too. Yep, you're right. So here at the perfect fourth, once we get to the tritone, I'm going to kind of start making melodies because basically everything else is just mirrored of what we've already created. Because I'll speak esoteric for a second. The furthest distance you can go from one note to the next is called 6 semitones or tritone. Anything below or beyond that is the same thing mirrored back on itself. Okay, so you guys will understand that when we get into melody. Here we have what's called the perfect fifth. This likes to resolve back to the median, aka the third of a specific scale. What up, Jared? I know I'm kind of speaking Chinese right now, but when we start applying this, it'll make more sense. Okay, and or the dominant chord or dominant scale degree. Now, why does this want to resolve here? Because earlier we talked about how the half step feels like resolution every time. And so when people ask me how to transition, the music has to transition. Effortless is here, what's up? And this is how we can create that push-pull tension in our music to where it guides the listener without any drums. The dominant is always, yeah. What's up, Mason is here. Okay, so this perfect fifth is considered a mild tension. If I had to guess why it's considered a mild tension, it's probably because this half step resolution, okay? Let's keep moving. Nextly, we have 6 semitones. Now I'm gonna stop here because there's more that, you know, it goes all the way up to 12 semitones, but again, this stuff is mirrored onto itself. Now we're talking about what's called the tritone. And excuse me, the tritone is the furthest distance you can go from one note to the next. And unless you're talking about really advanced tuning models, we're talking about just 440 hertz, you know, regular tuning. So what I mean by this is this creates the most dissonance. This is considered the most highly dissonant interval out of all of the intervals. Why though? It's because it's the furthest distance from the tonic. So the perfect fourth is only one step away from that. So that's why it's mildly tense, okay? Now let's move to what's called a tritone. A tritone is what you guys heard in Snoop Dogg's Boo, 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 boo. Let me see if I can find. So we count up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A sharp. Okay, you guys have heard. Can you feel it? Okay, so that's an example of the tritone, and the tritone is the furthest distance we can go from one note to the next. Let me explain why. And I'm gonna have to zoom through this. So here we have, let's move this over to the right a little bit. Okay, here we have the tonic note, and then we're gonna add what's called the minor second, which is 1 note away. Okay, then we have 2 notes away, which is the major second. 3 notes away, which is our minor third. 4 notes away is the major third. 5 notes away is the perfect fourth. 6 notes away is the tritone. 7 notes away is called the perfect fifth. Now what happens though if we pull this perfect fifth down an octave? Technically the perfect fifth is only 5 notes away from the tonic, because if I count from here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as I go higher and higher into these intervals, like now we're at the 8, the augmented, the 8, or the minor 6 technically is the technical name for it. The minor 6th is actually, if we pull this down an octave, it's getting closer to the tonic. It's 4 notes away. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as we go higher and higher in these intervals, we're actually getting closer and closer to the tonic. So quite literally, the furthest distance you can go from note to note in this specific structure of music is from the tonic to the tritone. The tritone was even banned in certain churches. They called it the devil's interval, and it's because it creates so much dissonance. Now, why does it create dissonance? It's because it's the furthest way from home. Okay, that's why it creates dissonance. And so this needs to resolve. It says the tritone wants to resolve to the mediant or the dominant. It has to resolve to a stable note. So we're going to resolve it to both. E, because it's, so again, I'm kind of blending 3 different languages here. We're talking about scale degrees, intervals, and we're talking about counterpoint. So it's a lot that I'm kind of introducing to you guys when I say stable. But what I mean is that certain notes have a certain characteristic based on the scale degree and its position in the scale. I seen your channel on my feed, no doubt. You know what you're doing. Where can we find beats that you have made? All on my YouTube channel. I took down my music off of streaming, so you're not gonna find stuff on streaming, but you can find it on my channel. I make a beat in almost every video I do online. So I have 5,000 something videos. I'm like Lil Wayne dropping songs every day. Sec now. We'll get into your question about this more in a second. Okay, so we're gonna resolve this tritone down to the tonic or the median. So here's what it sounds like. Is counterpoint worth learning? It's a great question. You know, I would say whatever inspires you to learn music theory, get into it, because it will become a subconscious thing at that point. You're not going to be like thinking, where should I go next? It'll give you more tools. Yeah, anything that gives you more tools and structure to music, I think is a good thing. But do I pull from it every single day? Not necessarily. I'm not thinking of notes as stable and dissonant. I'm just going based off of a feeling, but that feeling comes from me knowing what I've done before. So it's one of those things where it's like chicken or the egg. Now that we understand the basics of all these intervals, I didn't go all the way up to the octave because again, they're mirrored. So I need you guys to like this video so we keep the party going. Now let's apply the melody. So now we got all the like people who wanted cookie cutter bullcrap out the way. Now let's get into the actual science. So if without that fundamental explanation, you guys won't understand this. So that's why I make sure I cover all the fundamental definitions first before we start getting too deep. Because again, everybody wants the cookie cutter answers, but they don't want the actual like skill. They just want the idea that they think they know what they're doing. Okay, so let's say your tonic is A. Let's start making melodies here. So we're gonna start with piano. Again, if you guys struggle with melody, try piano, guitar, or any other stringed instrument. Okay, now the question is, where do we go from the tonic? You could literally go anywhere. That's the beauty of the tonic, is that it's already at rest and we can go anywhere. You said, what's an alternative to decimort 2? Try the kilohertz. What is it called? Kilohertz Essentials. Kilohertz Essentials free. It's a free download. They have a bunch of plugins. and look for the plugin called Bit Crusher, Kilohertz Bit Crusher. So that's basically Decimort. All right. Thank you, AK. And I appreciate you clicking on the image in the feed. So now let's get into like, where do we go from here? Okay, we have the root note. We know we want this kind of dark tone, but where do we go from here? And the answer is literally anywhere. So I'm gonna close my eyes and pick a note. So it says A sharp. Now what is A sharp? Let's define this first before we start getting too deep. A sharp is a half step up from the tonic. And what did we learn about the minor second, or the half step up? It wants to come back down a half step. So all I have to do is write this. Now we could also follow this in the bass, or we could just leave the bass as is and let it rub those notes. Now let's go to a different note. Let's start at A again. I'm literally going to close my eyes just to show you guys how mathematically accurate this is. We're just going to close our eyes, pick a random note. So we're at G sharp. Now what is G sharp? G sharp is a half step down from the tonic. And what do we know about half steps? I didn't get to this interval, but it's called the major seventh interval, because it's 11 notes away from the tonic, or technically one note down from the tonic, and it wants to resolve to the tonic. But why? It's because it's a half step away, and half steps want to always resolve back down or up a half step. So we're basically just going to go the opposite way. So instead of going up the half step, we're going to go down the half step. Now musically, creatively speaking, this might confuse a listener, because before we went up and now we're just going down. So if I were to make a beat out of this, I probably wouldn't do it this way. So what we're gonna do, but we could do it this way. Okay, so I would not necessarily do it this way, but we could do it this way. Okay, so this is considered our contrast layer. There's 4 layers to melody. You have a top line layer, you have a harmony layer, you have a contrast layer, and you have a rhythm section. So this, usually speaking, if you guys are starting with your lower frequencies, this is the contrast layer. Okay, now we're going to create the harmony layer. So the harmony is where we get a little complex, and this is where we give our melody context. Okay, so without context, it's hard to know what to do with these melodies. But every beat does not need a harmony, so I got to be careful how I like structure my language here. So now the question is, what kind of chord are we going to use? We have the root note, and then we have this half step. So what I could do is, because we have a dark tone, we're going to go with a quote-unquote minor tonality, which is A, C, E. And we could also drop this minor third down to create what's called a suspended second chord. If your plugins folder, if you want to find them. And the reason why we're switching from here to here is because of this half step. Okay, so that's when you start thinking in half steps, it makes more sense. It's Tyler the Creator style. It's, you know, Meek Mill style. It's the half step is super powerful. And I'm not thinking about, did we go up a half step and down a half step? I'm just thinking, what is the relationship at this specific point? We go down a half step. So I made the chords mirror what we're doing in the melody, or the contrast part of the melody. Blindfolded, you're right. I probably could though. Now that we have the contrast layer, we have the harmony layer. Now let's create what's called the top line. Now the top line is usually 1 octave higher than the top note of a chord. How long will the stream be? Till I get bored. No set time. So we're gonna start at the tonic, but make sure it's an octave higher than the top note. So in this case, we're at E5. So the next note would be technically A5, but this is not an octave higher than the top note. Okay, so we're gonna go an octave higher, which is A6. So now we're going to create what's called top line. Now, because we've created the movement and the kind of structure around how we're moving through intervals in the contrast layer, we want to keep that same philosophy for the top line so that it's cohesive. But technically speaking, I could literally close my eyes, pick an interval. Okay, so again, I just happen to pick the half step down. That was kind of cool. And we could do the same rules. Half steps want to resolve a half step. Now, this is where we get into counterpoint, which is when we have multiple parts of a melody doing different things. How do you play piano without hands? You could right-click your typing keyboard and then use this right here, this typing keyboard to piano icon, and then right-click to select your scale, or you could select just hit reset to reset this back. Okay, to what it is C4 layout piano. That's the preset. Okay, so even though we're going in two completely different directions, they sound cohesive, and this is the concept of counterpoint. So counterpoint is almost like a tertiary study in the way that, because now, counterpoint is after the intervallic structure and after the scales. So it's like a third thing added, which is like the direction of stuff. So that's the way I'm thinking about counterpoint, is like, how do I direct the motion of what's going on? And how do I like articulate that? Thank you, Teddy. So this is what we call counterpoint. I think they call this oblique motion when you go like in opposite directions with your melody. One thing's going down, one thing's going up. I haven't memorized counterpoint terms. Maybe I'll like focus for like a month and just study counterpoint so I can share with you guys more techniques. But I'm just showing you guys there's a rhyme and a reason to melody notes. So let's close our eyes one more time, pick a random note, and let's see how far this is from the tonic. So it's from A to F sharp is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what I learned in jazz theory is that as long as you resolve a note, you can play wrong notes as long as you resolve the note. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is called our major sixth. And if we look at our I guess chart, the major, which I didn't cover earlier because I just wanted to kind of speed through that, but the major sixth wants to resolve stepwise or to the dominant or to a stable major sixth, I'm reading the wrong definition, pardon me, wants to resolve stepwise or to the dominant, and it is stable. That's what I meant to say. So what is the dominant of A? 7 semitones up from A. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So even though we're going out of key, and this is technically, I'll say wrong, as long as it resolves, that's what makes us feel as though it's okay to go out of key. So this is completely out of key, this F sharp, but because it resolves, it feels more cohesive. So that's how we get these really unique melodies going out of key on purpose. Now my ear wants to hear a half step just to make it super haunted and then bring it back to the tonic. And the tonic, let's see, A to F would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes away, which is our minor sixth. And the minor sixth wants to resolve back to a dominant or a stable note. Dominant or subdominant, technically. There are no key where 3 notes, he says there is no key where 3 notes are next to, let me read this the way you wrote it. Sarika says there's no key where 3 notes are next to know each other. How do you explain that this works? A sharp, a G sharp. So I think your first statement is incorrect. There is a scale where there are 3 notes together. It's called the blues scale. So let me show you guys real quick. So here's a blues scale. It has 3 back-to-back notes. That's why I didn't want to start with scales, because people in traditional music theory, they teach you guys to focus on a scale first. And my approach to music theory, we say F the scale. We start with the sound first, and then we figure out the scale stuff. But because a lot of people start with scales, they kind of make too many rules, in my opinion. So yeah, there's a scale with 3 notes back to back. It's called the blues scale. Very cool. I've been learning some new jazz. Can't mess it up. Let me see what this last tone sounds like. My kind of haunted ear needs to hear that half step. So whenever you want like a haunted sound or like a trap sound, use that half step, which is 1 note up or 1 note down. So that's how you apply intervals. Now let's move to a different instrument. So that was a piano, but let's say we want to write on a guitar, for example. Let's open up Flex. So is this going over you guys' head? Am I speaking too advanced? Let me know. I know we went kind of really advanced, but again, if you want the free chord code chart, just go to discord.gg/busyworksbeats. I think we already have, let me pull up the Discord. Let me see the new count on our Discord. Let's see if we passed 90,000 yet. We have We have 89,613 folks on our Discord. So come hop in. You got people live streaming. We got drum kits for free, multi-tracks. You guys can practice mixing. We have a ton of loops made by great loop makers. Tips. We do beat battles every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We do song feedback every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Sometimes we do giveaways. Sometimes we do placement opportunities. So it's a city for producers. I made it specifically for you guys. I think we're the #1 Discord in the world for music production for stuff that we do. Technically, Kenny Beats is higher, but I haven't seen people active in his Discord. It seems like it's losing members more than gaining, but I could be completely wrong. So we'll say technically second in the world, but I'm pretty sure we're first in the world. Is what we want to hear. The advanced stuff, true. But again, people want to hear advanced stuff and then they skip over all the pyramid blocks to get up to the top of the pyramid, and then they're confused. So it's like, I got to cover all the way up to the top of the pyramid. I can't just show you the capstone. All right, now let's move into some kind of guitar. So under the general MIDI library of FL Studio, you have more basic kind of run-in-the-mill sounds. You have your acoustic guitar. I believe they have an acoustic in here. They have an acoustic bass. So there's this 12-string guitar. It's kind of twangy, if that's the word. Let's see if we can find a cleaner guitar, maybe a nylon. Hopefully they have nylon in here. They have a guitar, harmonics. They have jazz guitars, a little more tamed, a little more dulled out the sound. This might be a good sound. Let's see though if they have, what was the word I was going for? I forgot that fast. Nylon guitar. Okay, so most kind of trap beats are made nylon. So let's start with this nylon guitar. So I'm going to move a little bit quicker through some of the music production techniques, but we're going to get to a final result. So let's say we want to make a Gunna melody. First, let's start with a slower BPM. Let's open up the piano roll. We're going to change our snap to grids to triplets, or 1/3 beat. So 1/3 triplets are like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. I'm using Flex so that you guys can download these project files for free, because I give away the project files at the end of the live stream. And most people have FL Studio stock plugins. Not everybody has the money to invest in like Nexus, so I got to make sure I'm covering the bases for everybody. But yeah, the different plugins are going to get a higher quality sound. Thank you, Auxcord. No worries, the replay will be up. Let's start applying the techniques. So here we're going to play a nylon guitar. We're going to use sustain notes. And all we're doing here is just playing a minor triad. So this is where melody and chords overlap, but everybody wants to skip over the chords, and that's why you're having trouble with melody. So again, here's the triplet. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Let's crank it up. So now also, you don't have to strum your notes going upward. If you think about a real guitar, it's low strings first, then higher strings. But what happens if we start with the higher string and we pick it going the other way? So here's a technique that is simple, but people overlook it, especially with guitar. Sustain notes are just long notes, whereas staccato or shorter notes are like short, like this, like very plucky. Think about it like a pluck is like pa, 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 like a pluck, and then sustain notes are like, if I hold a note, that's sustain. Whereas if I go like no, 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 that's called staccato. Let's grab this slice tool, and we're gonna hit shift to do a vertical slice. So we're playing the note twice, the root note twice, and we're accenting it with the fifth over top. So we're playing the fifth and the tonic at the same time. And I'll show you guys how to make this sound more realistic in a second. Now in guitar, the cool thing about guitar, or I guess one of the structural things about guitar, you don't want to move notes a lot on your guitar. So I wish I had my guitar ready, but I don't. So if I'm playing a chord, let's say it's an A minor chord, it requires 3 of my fingers. Bring. Now let's say I want to play a C major chord, I think is the next chord, or E minor, one of the two. Then I'm going to remove one of my fingers and play the same exact notes. So we're playing the same notes, we're just changing one of those notes. And let's say I want to play, I think it's G minor, I'm only going to use one note, one finger, and then strum the same exact notes. And so we need to understand the concept of guitar, where the majority of the chord will stay the same. It's over time you learn all this stuff. Saucy says he doesn't want to waste his time. I use flex for all my melodies already. Dope. So here is where we can start getting fancy. My ear wants to hear dun. Okay, and why does it want to hear dun? It's because that's a half step down. We learned this before. Half step down. Now the question is, what chord goes a half step down? And this is where you have to understand music theory a little bit. We're gonna use our ear and just assume that we're in the C major scale, okay, which is C to E, which is a major triad, a major third. And this is how we get that Juice WRLD type sound. Now the secret to the sound is that we're keeping that top note the same in this case, because we're thinking like a guitar player. They're just moving a couple notes at a time. They're not moving all the notes at the time. But also too, they're playing the fifth and re-triggering the tonic note. So here's where we get into stylistic melody. Understanding what makes a guitar sound like a guitar. I boosted the server. Thank you. I don't even know what that means, but I appreciate you. I think that means that other people our rank stays high or something like that. I wish I understood the Nitro and all that. I don't understand Nitro. I just know I pay monthly to have the Discord open. So the fact that you boosted that means a lot. So thank you. But yeah, so okay, so here's the now what we did in this, I know I'm kind of jumping kind of fast. We went from a D minor triad, which is the minor third interval, that's the focus. Now if we keep the same note A, we're playing the major third interval starting at C, but technically this is the A minor chord if we were to pull this up an octave. So technically it's still a minor chord. We're just doing what's called an inversion of the root note. I'm trying not to go too deep into music theory advanced, but I cover all this on my music theory magic course. You guys can actually use the code music theory during checkout. So music theory magic, use the code music theory for 50% off of our music theory courses. That's for beat magic, music theory essentials is where I would recommend you guys start. You know, music theory in a day, chord magic, whatever the music theory course is, use the code music theory during the checkout. It will take 50% off. Now the question is, do we want to keep the same structure? So my ear is telling me to go down to, okay, so let's follow that first and keep that same top note. So this is B flat. And here we're going out of the traditional C major scale. So here's where we're gonna start using our ear more than like a technical thing. So we're gonna copy that top note over. And now we need to determine, does this major third sound good, or should we switch it to a minor third? So I like that major third, it just sounds very open. And again, what our ear is really listening to is this intervallic distance. We're using this as what I call a stable note or an anchor note. And everything else that's moving feels like the actual chord progression. So the chord progression is really the minor third into the major third interval into another major third. And even this is where it gets really complex, because intervallic resolution also talks about scale degrees, because there's a distance between D and C. There's a distance between C and A sharp. And these are whole steps in this case. All Around Entertainment, thank you for what you do, bro. You generally help people, and I wouldn't know much without your tutorials. Thank you for even showing up, consistently showing up. I'm gonna post these to Instagram, so thank y'all. Thank you. Shout out to PA. Y'all went through a crazy event the other week, but shout out to PA. I'm from outside of Philadelphia, so PA is just different. It's just a very crazy place. What would this chord progression be called on actual guitar? You mean like the scale degrees? That's a great question. I don't know guitar tablature language, so maybe there's another way to say it in guitar tablature, Brandon. Manny Beats is here, what up? If I had to figure out what key we're in, let's hit Alt P actually. And let's see what FL says. It says we're in the D minor scale. Okay, so I guess it goes based off of our first chord, assuming this is the tonic. So if this were the D minor scale, let's map this out. Just want to answer Brandon's question real quick. Again, I don't memorize scales off the top of my head, being honest with y'all. So let's go there. So the D minor scale, we started at the tonic. So this would be a 1, and then we moved to the 7th. So it's weird, we're going backwards technically. But technically we're at the A. So this is a 1-5. It's an inverted 5 though. So it's a 1-5, and then we have A sharp, which is our, what is this? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 5, 6, and then 1 progression. If you want the technical like name for it, it's a 1, 5, 6, and then we're gonna go back to the tonic. But I don't teach that way because it doesn't tell you why we do anything. That way, I'm trying not to confuse people. Speaking in Roman numerals and scale degrees, in my opinion, is more of an analysis than it is a do this type of thing. But you analyze before you do it, if that makes sense. So I can copy that and send it to Brandon, but if I were to start from the 1, 5, 6, it doesn't give me a reason why I'm doing this stuff. Because I had to invert the 5th, so I wouldn't know to do that just off the Roman numerals. Anyhow, Housley is here. Real talk, back when I started, Game was the only one doing good FL tutorials. Thank you. I tried to teach as many people as possible. Now we got a lot of other channels that kind of learn from me and a couple other folks, and now we're just multiplying ourselves, basically. I'm building a content team, by the way, so if any other content creators are watching, I have the BusyWorks network where I'm going to be expanding myself into you guys. So I want to make you guys shine. And so here's where I'm going to multiply what I've learned into your brand. And we're all going to kind of work together. So it's called the BusyWorks network. You guys can just join us on Discord. I'll keep you guys updated on that. BusyWorks. So it's discord.gg/BusyWorksBeats. So I'm looking for tutorial makers and people who make entertainment for music producers and artists. But it has to be those, not beat channels. I'm not looking for artist channels. I recently started producing and learned so much from your tutorials. Keep up the hard work, bro. Thank y'all. Y'all are just testimonial back to back. I can't even keep up with the screenshots. Thank you. I'm gonna post all these to Instagram. Appreciate y'all for doing this. Because again, it helps the people who don't know me understand that I actually have value to offer. Because a lot of people were kind of skeptical. Is the A now the note for the 808, or the C? Is the A now the note for the 808, or the C inversed A minor chord? I could hear that, but I want to. Basically, this is the 5 chord with the root note inverted up. It's called a first inversion. I don't want to like confuse y'all with too much chord talk right now, because it just make people more confused. So now we're gonna bring it back to the 1. Now, what we can do to create tension in the 1, from what I've learned, is take the 5th and the tonic and pull it down a half step. That's just a technique that you guys could try. You don't have to do it that way. It works better with 7th chords, I've noticed. Let's see what it sounds like in context. Now, not everybody will want that kind of change up, so it could work, but it's not mandatory for this style. Now let's kind of make it better. Let's hit Alt-S to create what's called the strum tool. This is great for guitar type stuff. And we want to pull up what's called the strength. Now this only works when the notes are quantized beforehand. If your notes are played by hand and you don't have them, oh, what's up? Oh, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but you said hi on the chat. Thank you. I don't know how to pronounce your name though. Oh, something. I guess it's okay. Unless that's like a Chinese letter, I'm not sure. Or Japanese or something. I'm not familiar with the language, but shout out to y'all. Michael's here. How can you apply the rule of thirds? We just did triplets. That's a funny way to put it. But we also did so here's the rule of thirds in this example. We're doing triplets, so it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So automatically the time's divided by 3. We're technically only using 3 notes. And then we have 3 main chords that we're pulling from, which is the tonic, the dominant, and then our, what was this? The, I forgot what A sharp was in that specific scale. I think it was the 6. Okay, and then back to, now what does the 6th usually move back to? Remember, the 6th is the submediant. And the submediant wants to move, where did I put that? Submediant. I need to have one of these for chords as well, because I didn't really cover scale degree resolution. I covered intervallic resolution. But the submedian wants to move back to the fourth, the third, or the tonic. So those could be the ending chords. So let's say you wanted to create variation. Okay, so this is I'm glad somebody brought that question up. Now we are in the D natural minor scale. It is a little complex. I don't expect you guys to memorize what we're doing right here. All I'm doing here is creating variation. Now I don't need a bunch of new sounds. Sometimes variation can be created in the music. So instead of the tonic, we did 1, 5, 6, 1. That was our chord progression. What if I went 1, 5, 6, and then we went to the fourth or the third? So let's create that movement. And as a reference, I'll put up the natural minor scale for D over here so that we can know what is the third, what is the fourth. Because again, I don't memorize scales off the top of my head. So instead of this tonic that we're ending with right here, let's switch this to the fourth. And the fourth of the D natural minor scale is first, second, third, fourth is G. And that's going to be a G major, 0, 1, 2, 3, G minor chord. Okay, so we're going to basically just transpose this down to G. Now, the reason I wouldn't use this is because it's so far away. Look how many notes away we are from this whole structure. Okay, so something has to change. Either we're going to pull this down an octave and invert these notes, which is probably what we're going to have to do. But my ear wants to hear like dun, 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 dun. Like it has to end some type of way, and that's because of the direction of notes. So let's see what this sounds like. What up, Derek? Now now my ear wants to hear dun, dun, dun. Okay, so let's do dun. So we're just playing C, it looks like. Actually, we're playing A. So A would be the fifth of D, which makes sense because we're going to lead right back into the dominant. Into the tonic. So that's like I'm trying to simplify what I'm saying in my head because I have 1,000 thoughts going on. Here's the first thought. The first thought is, yes, we could go to the third, or the, where are we at? The fourth? We could go to the fourth, but the fourth is so far away from what we were playing before that we either have to invert these notes, meaning pull them up or down, to make them more realistic of a guitar, because a guitar, you're not going from here to down here on the neck. There's no realistic movement like that. So because they're so far away, I either have to invert the notes, but it sounded better normal. But then because we went this far down, it wants to have that tension of push pull. And so here we see a half step movement. And this A is the dominant to the tonic of D natural minor. So that was like 3 principles applied just then. Do we invert notes? Are we going to use submediant to the fourth resolution? There's so many questions involved in that one small change. Let me answer your questions real quick. I started like over a decade ago producing EDM. EDM's fun. I wish I learned more. Mo West says, have you seen the posts where certain frequencies on a metal platform with sand create different geometric figures of sand? Yeah, it's called cymatic experiments. Basically, yeah. But I dug deeper with that. You can get shapes even if it's not at 432 hertz tuning. So that's the tricky part of cymatic experiments, is what does it mean if we can get multiple shapes in different tunings, even if it's not 432? But it all comes back to my course called Music Theory Magic. I dig into what cymatic experiments are showing us, is that we have what are called natural frequency and resonance points. And if you find the resonance or the natural frequency of another being and you tap into that frequency, you make that thing move, quite literally. So that's the secret behind it. Derek says, what's up, man? For just making beats at the moment, an audio interface, isn't that necessary, right? Or does it make a difference? It doesn't make a difference. Audio interfaces, they just take off some of the load from your computer if they have DSP handling. All audio interfaces are really for your microphones and for your synthesizers. If you're not heavy into all that, you don't really need an audio interface right now. Just use some iPhone headphones, plug them up to your computer, you're good for a while. Like, you don't have to spend a bunch of money on headphones. Have I helped Metro with a song before? No, but he's shouted me out. If you guys go to busyworksbeats.com, and he follows me on Instagram and Twitter, and I appreciate that because he's the freaking top producer in the world right now. So he said, let me zoom in. Metro shouted me out on Twitter, and he said, love, bro, I've always been a fan. The work you do for the community is monumental. So he followed me, and I said, thanks for following me, and then he replied back with that. And Rodney Jerkins, you know, he likes the chord codes I teach. Illmind, I think he learned some FL Studio stuff. So, I mean, I can't take credit for their careers, but I mean, they did, I guess, interact with my content at some point. But there are high-level producers, like, hit me up about stuff. Like, shout out to Teddy Riley, shout out to Warren G, shout out to, who else is an OG? I'm trying to think of, like, OG people. There's another OG in there that I'm going blank on, but I mean, Teddy Riley's my favorite. Like, it's crazy. It's so full circle. Like, the person that made me love music hit me up about something about FL Studio one time, and I was like, wow, this is so full circle. Like, he's the reason I'm into music for the most part, and then he's asking me something about me teaching music. It was magical. But shout out to them. But we're all humans. We have loss. We have wins and everything. So at the end of the day, celebrities and stuff are just people. Like, that's how I see everybody. I'm not tripping on the fanfare thing. Let's hit Alt S to strum these notes. So these have to be quantized. Let's turn it to strength. And this adds a ring type sound. Now you can do what's called alternate direction, which is strumming up and down. Avicii, I don't listen to Avicii very much. I don't know everything. You can also put it into higher and make the inversion lower. True. Humanized tool is more advanced. It has more controls. True. And most people in FL, they use this thing called the Strummizer for just making beats at the moment. I answered that one already. Okay, just making sure I'm covering everything. What up, Andres? Mess with the strength a little bit more. So that's how you get that like bouncy sound. Yeah, I mean Metro. I was really talking about. I didn't even meet it on a Metro level. I actually meant the other folks that I meant. Like Warren G just called me randomly. It was just like not recently, but probably I don't even know the last time he called me. But I just was like, oh, what's up? And he was just talking to me like a regular person. Same with, you know, Teddy Riley. You could just feel the passion. He really loves music. Like you could feel it in his voice. All right. So next up, we got the third. So again, we went off on like a lot of tangents. What I'm doing right now is instead of doing the 1, 5, 6, 1, I'm doing the variation. So remember, we can resolve to multiple points. And what I'm showing you guys here is how can we resolve to multiple points. So I actually need to Control Z that strum. Young verse. Thank you, Silon. How do you say it? Silo in the solo verse. It's a tough name to say. What we're doing here is just creating variation in the music. So we did 1, 5, 6, 4, 5, 1. That's a long progression. Then we did 1, 5, 6. And then here we're gonna do, instead of the 1, we're gonna go to something else. So this is a little like in the weeds because we kind of didn't do it consecutively back to back. So let me copy this over. So 1, hold on y'all, let me just copy these notes, boom. All right, so here we have, okay, so instead of going to the tonic here, which is the 1, 5, 6, 1, let's go to the third. What is the third of the D natural minor scale? The third is first, second, third. So that's going to give us F, and then F to A is our major triad, our major third. So I know it's going to be a major chord. So we're going to do 1, 6, 5, 4. This is getting confusing. And then 1, 5, 6, 4, which is going to be F major. Now, because we have A at the top, we can kind of play F and C. Let's see what this sounds like. We're still playing F major, but the notes are just spread out differently. This may or may not sound good. Now, my ear wants to hear. It needs to hear that half step for some reason. So it's something about the ear. When we move towards that fourth and the third of this scale, it's like our brain has to go to the dominant, because that just happened each time. Every time I went to a different interval outside of the tonic, it wants to go to the dominant, which leads back to the tonic. So that's how important the dominant is. Do I play video games? Yes. I like the Yu-Gi-Oh game called Legacy of the Duelist, I think it's called. Civ Rev is my favorite game. Yu-Gi-Oh Legacy of the Duelist. I mean, I used to be on PUBG and stuff, but I'm more so on strategy games. That's my favorite thing. StarCraft is an awesome game. I love games, but they have to be fire though. I liked your dark music industry secrets video. The one about the stories and everything. You said, how do you manage hertz? Tuning is about, to be short about it, in FL Studio, just go to your plugin, go to your wrench tool, go to your pitch range, pull this to 1. Tuning is basically anything within 100 cents is basic tuning. So if I turn it up, you get a different frequency per what they call middle A. So if middle A goes from 440 hertz to 445, that's called 445 hertz tuning. It just means I pitched everything up 5 hertz for the most part. That's what it means. 5 hertz converted to cents, I forget the exact change, but I do know that 440 to 432 down is negative 31 cents. So I do know that. So if we go down minus 31, we're going to be in 432 tuning. Okay, so we still need to finish off. So I do like those variations. So when people ask me, how do you transition or how do you create variations in your music? It starts with the musicality first, then all the other stuff. And you guys just saw how when we went from the submediant over to the fourth and the third, it wants to pull back to that dominant, and that dominant wants to go back to the tonic. So if you rewound this live stream and you started all the way back at the beginning, we talked about how the dominant wants to resolve to the tonic almost all the, well, not all the time, all the time, not almost all the time, all the time. So we did, okay, so let me organize in my head what we did. So we have the 1, 6, or did we do 1, 5, pardon me. I forgot it's inverted. So 1, 5, 6, and then we went to the 4th, and then to the 5, and then back to the 1. Okay, then we went 1, 5, 6, and then we went to the 3rd, which then goes to the 5th, back to the 1. Okay, and then we went, now we're gonna do the 1, 5, 6, and then 1, because that will be all our variations. Okay, so here we're gonna, this is an extra one. And then we'll swap out the sound, and then we'll humanize this a little bit so that it doesn't sound so stiff. So again, we're using stock sounds right now. Everything has the same velocity. Can you listen to my track? Not today. We're doing that on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So come join us on Discord. It's Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. We do it from our Discord, and then we go live on YouTube. That's the link right there. All right, so let's go all the way back. Yeah, we're not worried about the sound. We're worried about the notes right now. Then we can worry about the sound. StarCraft is goated, that's for sure. So let's start using our tools here. Let's hit Alt-S. Now we still need the velocity to be more human. Right now, everything's playing at the same exact velocity. There's a script. If you go to Tools and the piano roll, go to Humanize. Now you got to be careful with this. There's another script I keep forgetting to download, but it's called No Overlapping Notes, or Remove Overlaps. This is very important for long progressions that we just created, because this Humanize tool, what it does is it will offset notes forward and backward. If FL Studio has overlapping notes, like right here, this note is overlapping this note, it won't play the next note. So it's going to have silenced notes that we don't necessarily want. So this is why I recommend downloading the remove overlap script from the image line forums, or else you're gonna have to manually go in and slice off every note, which is so tedious. Now another key to the sound is playing the notes overlapping. It's part of the sound. If I hit Control L, most beginners do their melodies like this. One note at a time. Yeah, but Humanize has not only velocity changes, it does time changes as well. And it's a little more realistic than the randomize function. Somehow here it duplicated this note. I have no clue what happened here. Let's get rid of that note. Okay, so you see how tedious it is to slice each of these notes. Okay, this is why I'd recommend you guys download the script from the actual image line forums. It is a little tedious to install, but it saves a lot of time. Like cutting your melody up manually can take forever. So now that I did all that, let's swap out the actual sound. So I would recommend doing that only on a nylon guitar. Let's see, I don't have Omnisphere installed in here, and I don't know if Expand 2 has a nylon. Well, let's compare it to a different nylon. Let's see if we get a different sound. Let's go to guitars. And nylon. Let me see. Let me read the list here. We have different styles. So let's copy this over. So now we're just switching out the sound. So this is what we call sound selection, or the quality of the sound. Now different plugins have different articulations. So let's go back. Now to my ear, this sounds a lot cleaner and more realistic. Here it goes, dong, dong. That's because the notes are overlapping. Now the reason it sounds still fake is because the velocities are not realistic. What we could do is hit Alt X to turn down these velocities. Now every plugin is different, so this is not a fix-all for every single plugin. But this also softens the sound, but it depends on the plugin itself. So let's go through a couple presets. Now this probably is the best tone out of all of them. You hear that tick, tick, tick. Okay, so again, I'm not gonna bore you all to tears about technical stuff like this, but just giving people a reason as to if you do all the techniques I did, this is why it might click and pop and stop the melody, because there's overlapping notes. Now that we get the gist, let's move on to another melody. Just want to make sure at the end when I play all these melodies that they sound good. So we went over triplets, the rule of thirds, we went over intervallic resolution. And for those wondering what syncopation is, it's basically if I count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, syncopation is the and. So it's like 1 and 2 and that's the syncopation. Something here. Oh, here we go. So all these little details add up. Those little flickers. All right, so that's that. Now, what else can we cover? I'm trying to think. There was deals with intervallic resolution. So here's our first melody that I forgot we made. And we resolved. We went out of key and resolved. That bing, bing, that's out of key, but it resolves so it fits. Let's try some chord progressions now and how to build melody on top of chords. How long have we been live? An hour and 20. Make sure everybody's doing all right. Smash the like button. Let me know you're live. Is it possible to make the piano roll not shrink the view when you reopen it? Do you mean the zoom or do you mean the view? Not sure what you mean by shrink the view. Like this, it goes like that. What I do is I double click on it to make it full screen. What up, AJ? So I just keep mine in full screen mode. Maybe you manually like do this and then you do this. Let me see. Let me try to recreate the problem. I don't know. Mine kind of stays the same. If I zoom in where it only shows 4 bars, then close it. When I reopen it, it shows more than 4 bars. Okay, if I zoom in like this, you mean? Okay, on the timeline. Okay, so it's 4 bars and then I X out, come back in. That must be some meta setting somewhere. I'm not sure what that would even be under, to be honest with you. Not sure what to tell you on that. I would chat GPT that. Chat GPT probably knows better than me. Yeah, I can't think of anything that would even be. Not sure what to tell you. But if anything, you could hit Alt. This little bar right here, you could hit Alt left click to restore the vertical length of your notes. So if your screen ever messes up, you can hit Alt and then left click that. And then I think you can go to View and never mind. I thought you could reset the view, but never mind. I don't know what to tell you. I would have to research that a lot more. All right, I'm losing juice, so we gotta. What next melody do you guys want to cover? Actually, let's stay on schedule because this is a master class, so we can't go off the rails too much. So now let's move into what are called scale degrees and chords. I would explain this more, but I covered this in my courses where I spent way more time on this. So just go to busyworksbeats.com/music-theory-magic, and you could use the code music theory during the checkout for 50% off. Just to show you guys how it works. Like if you go to my website, I think I have to use incognito maybe. Hold on. Let's do a blank Google. Let's do busyworks. Beats.com. Not busyworksbeast.com. If you go to busyworksbeats.com, scroll down to find any music theory course, or if you guys want help finding which ones are music theory courses, go to all courses and then go to where it says music theory courses on the tab, and it will show up. All my music theory courses will show up here. Let's go to music theory essentials, for example, which is what I would recommend you guys start on. We do have payment plans too, so if you guys want to pay in increments, you could do that as well. So let's do it on the payment plan. So it says 4 times 40. So that's what, 160 total. So we're gonna hit purchase. And on the next screen, you're gonna see where it says enter coupon. We're gonna type in music theory, all lowercase, hit apply. And now it's only, what is this? $19.99 for 4 months. Okay, so that's how it's gonna take off your discount or whatever. So we have payment plans for people who wanna spread it out. Now, to have the course for a lifetime, you have to actually finish the payment plan. If you don't finish the payment plan, you won't have the course for a lifetime. But if you pay up front, you get it for a lifetime. Doxothor says, watching your free courses right now. There we go. I need to make some more free courses, though, for y'all. So my best free courses are the Better Beatmaker course at busyworksbeats.com/betterbeatmaker. It teaches people how to be beat makers from the ground up. That one's a really good course. And my FL Studio 21 course too. Okay, so now let's pick a different instrument. We did piano, we did guitar. So I'm trying to think, let's do more modern melody, because modern melody is a little bit different. But we're still gonna be using the basic theory behind it. So let's switch this to keyboard. Now let's move into new jazz. For people who have watched me before, you already know what I'm about to do. So let's do the 2-5-1 or the 2nd, 5th, 1st chord progression. What up, Robert West? I don't know why I said Beast. I read your comment. All right, so the two is technically called the supertonic. That usually wants to resolve to the third, but instead we're going to take it to the 5, because the 5 is ultimately wants to resolve down to the tonic. So that's why I said don't use these as hard rules. There's no like one way to do anything. Whoops. Let's pull this down an octave. You do music for a living, right? Or also different things? I have a music production training company. That's my primary business. Now let's do 2 5s. So let's switch this to a dominant ninth. We're gonna go up to G, and then back to major ninth, boom, C. Let's give this a little bounce using what's called tresillo, which is ta, 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 ta. So turn on your metronome. I forgot we are in 1/3, so we gotta switch our snap to grid to 1/2. All right, excuse me, y'all. I'm gonna yawn in your ears. It's getting a little tired here. Let's hit shift, right click. Now we're gonna R&Bify this chord because right now it's just super basic. We're gonna do what's called an altered chord on our dominant chord, raise that 5th and 9th. And I'm also gonna do a tritone substitution, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what is a tritone? 6 semitones. What's a tritone substitution? Moving a chord down 6 semitones. So that's why we need to understand intervals behind all this. Have you ever used an FL Studio stock synth for a big artist? I don't produce for big artists because I think I am the artist. Have I used a stock plugin on my own stuff? Maybe FL Keys, dance piano preset. If not, I like Morphine sounds, and I like Sawer for West Coast leads. But I use real synths and stuff, so I don't really mess with stock plugins like that. All right, so here we have a 2-5-1 chord progression. And it sounds smooth because we have a lot of these half steps resolving down a half step. Okay, and then now we're gonna move into, now we didn't cover this in this specific masterclass, but we're gonna cover this in our Music Theory Magic course at busyworksbeats.com/musictheorymagic. This is a concept called secondary dominant. So you guys are starting to see the importance of the dominant chord, hopefully. But if you go to busyworksbeats.com/musictheorymagic, again, you could use that code Music Theory. Use code Music Theory for 50% off. And again, it comes with payment plans too. I took my music off of streaming. When people ask me for my music, I'm like, how many YouTube videos do I have beats on? That's my music. What's the point of sending people to Spotify to come back to my YouTube? I would rather just do everything here. That's my philosophy. Everybody's different. But my primary audience is on YouTube, so I found it kind of backwards to go to a different platform just to come back to here. It just doesn't make sense. But again, I'm different. I'm very different. Let's go to A minor ninth. Let's pull this up to the perfect 5th. This is a dominant 5th. I mean a dominant chord from the 5th. Also, I work with brands. That's another part of my business model. So if you click at the top, let's switch this to 9. This is called a MIDI channel. It changes the color in FL Studio. This only works for image line plugins. Now what we could do is resolve this from the dominant to the tonic. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna clone it, and we're gonna pull it down 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we're gonna double click on this note and make this a slide note. So this will only slide the pink note to the other pink note down 7 semitones. The reason this is important is because it creates resolution within the chord without morphing the entire chord. So here's what it sounds like. All right, so let's do the same exact thing over here. Whoops. Clone this. And then our top note is B. So this is more of a modern technique. Okay, so let's clone this, and let's say we want to let's figure out what that would be. So again, I'm using my ear. So we're just gonna raise this up an octave. It's the same exact chord. What Which is suggestion on having external hard drives for larger VST libraries? Yes, the answer is yes. I have to order another hard drive because I already ran out of space. I do so many videos that I run out of space very quickly. So I gotta order, you just reminded me I have to order another hard drive. I like the Samsung T7s. So far they've been sturdy for me. I'm on Mac, that's what I use it for, but I'm pretty sure they're both PC and Mac. So now we're gonna get into a little bit more advanced stuff because now we're gonna talk about glissando. Can anyone help when I change from patterns to song mode? It doesn't change to green. It doesn't change to green. When I change from pattern to song mode, it doesn't change like this. I don't know. Sounds like y'all got some quirky versions of FL Studio. I would hit up FL Image Line support. That sounds like a code problem. But yeah, I would sit here one day I'll make a video about how we do business. It's very different. Being a music producer, only a music producer, be the most stressful thing in the world. You have to wake up, constantly be ready for a phone call, constantly be in a session. It's boring. It's just not the lifestyle I want. Once you guys understand that, but you guys are younger, most of y'all, so y'all don't really understand yet. Do you like to use plugins like Looperman or Shaperbox? Looperman, that's a plugin? I thought that was a website. No, I don't use Shaperbox. Looperator, oh. Yeah, I have a plugin called Glitch. It's a nice plugin. It's not on this computer though, but I like that one. All right, so now let's add the top line. So remember, the top line is usually one octave higher than the highest note. So in this case, the tonic is D. If we start at E5, the next octave up would be D6. So I'm gonna start, usually starting at the tonic. Now, if we start in a minor scale, which we're in the major scale here, I'm gonna use what's called the major pentatonic. This is all the stuff I teach in my music theory course. I just don't have time to teach y'all, but for now, depending on the scale that we're in, we're gonna simplify it to a 5-note scale called the pentatonic scale. If you're in a major key, you use the major pentatonic and you make sure your root note is the actual root note of the key, which is C. We're not in D minor, we're in C major. Okay, so we're gonna right click and go to major pentatonic and make sure our root note is C. Okay, so now when I play these notes, now we can start at the tonic, or I can start at the 2. Okay, so let's record this. That note I want to change. Okay, there's 2 notes I want to change because I was freestyling. What up, Sniper? I meant to go to B here, but I ran out of notes on my keyboard. Now that I didn't think about, okay, what's the third? You know, I wasn't thinking about intervallic resolution. This top line that we added, I was just thinking about playing the pentatonic notes and what sounds right, what sounds wrong. I wasn't thinking about the distance between notes. The Beat Architect says, we want more stories about the industry and what it means to be a producer. We love your content. Greetings from Switzerland. Thank you. I guess I'll screenshot that as a testimonial. I appreciate you, Beat Architects. I mean, I don't want to demonize the industry either. It's just, I am not the average music producer archetype. So it's hard for me to tell you guys what to do. Like most of you guys, let me just say it this way before I get into the next thing. Most young producers, they want to get good at the craft of making beats. They want to move to LA or Atlanta, and they want to go to studio sessions all day long and potentially get on records. That's cool if you're young. Like, that's cool as a college experience. I've gone to college, Villanova University, for 4 years, studied undergrad biology and pre-med. So I was trying to get into a whole different field. And I just learned business and then found music production. I already knew music production was my thing, but I didn't know it was my thing until later. But I was into music as a kid and everything else. So I did music for years, but I learned entrepreneurship. That's what I really wanted to do, was be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what it was called. So most of you don't want to be entrepreneurs though. You want to be 18, fly out to LA, sleep on your friend's couch, go to studio sessions at 2 a.m. Like for me, I have a child, a fiance, that's not happening. Like, and I don't even want to do that. It's a stressful life. You got to be ready to take a call at any time. You got to be on somebody else's time, and you do all this work and it may or may not be compensated. To me, that's just a life that's just too risky. So, you know, I have to build a solid business first and then all the other stuff. So that's what I'm trying to teach you guys, is how to build a business around what you do. That way you're not like, going with the tide of whatever's happening in the industry, if that makes sense. I need to bring on SP Anonymous because he worked with Doja Cat on, I think, Paint the Town Red. He did music for it. And I still need to have that conversation. Maybe he'll enlighten you guys about more of what the day-to-day being in the industry is. But I'm not trying to demonize it either. It's just not the lifestyle I'm trying to live. Cloud storage, I think he got a cracked version. Want to bother your work, but can you explain how to make different notes in the piano sound nice together, if that makes sense? Yeah, this is the whole live stream, was how to make notes in the piano sound nice. You got to go back. You got to rewind, Raphael. You're way too deep into the masterclass. You got to start at the beginning, Raphael. Go all the way back to the beginning. You can rewind the live stream. Omnisphere, yeah, not on this computer though. I don't have it on this computer. I heard there's a big announcement for MPC tomorrow. There we go, MPC gang. My secret to making great melodies is to always use the leading tone. In fact, I don't think I can make music without it. Now, do you mean the technical leading tone, like the seventh, or do you mean the tone on top, meaning the leading tone? Because it depends on what you mean by there. Because I think I understand what you mean. How old are you? I'm 33, if you don't mind me asking. I'm 33 now. I almost forgot how old I am, to be honest with you. Forget how old I am. Excuse me, sir. Can you recommend me some nice website or a web place with smooth sounds to use? Or do you record all your sounds? I'd recommend going to Reddit for drum kits. Okay, Reddit. Like type in your genre and then drum kit and then Reddit. You'll find the sounds. Now, our Discord also has sounds from like the top producers in the world. Brought to you guys by Lunch77. Thank you. Is it necessary to have your song reach -1 dB true peak? Because I've heard from a lot of people that your song should never go above -1, and if my beat is already hitting, that's a problem that it doesn't matter. Your question is not that urgent. Doesn't matter. You have the right advice. I think a lot of these inexperienced producers would be better off learning other skills and how to build products. It's just everybody wants the gold. You know, they teach them the gold rush. They teach them, hey, just go on Spotify. You'll become a celebrity like Future, even though all or most of the top artists on Spotify have botted plays, which means you're fighting against a rigged machine, which means you're always going to lose. So I don't know. It's just, I don't know. You know, people cater to you guys' fantasies, and that's what's holding you back most of the time. Breadaholic, how long have you been producing for? Since I was about 14. I was in the producing. Derpy Face says, what can I do to improve how my vocals sound? I have a video on, it's actually a live stream. If you go to my live stream on my YouTube page, a recent live stream where I'm mixing vocals and beats. You watch that one. Because I give you a vocal chain that always works. It just ironclad, as they say. Entomologist says, what you're talking about is different stages of value creation. Technician, true. Step 2, communication, articulating your ideas. Step 3, being you. Yeah, there's a book called E-Myth by Michael Gerber, if you guys want to understand what he's talking about. And it talks about, let me just pull it up real quick. Oop. So if you guys want to get better at business, you need to understand what is a business. So the E-Myth is a great chart, and let me pull it up. 3 levels. It's storming here, so I'm going to have to get off of this live in a second here. Yeah, I definitely think people sell dreams in the music industry, but it doesn't mean there's no money here. It just means people are doing what everybody else is doing, expecting extraordinary results. It's like, if we're doing everything that everybody else is doing, how do we expect different? Okay, so anyhow, I wish there was a better picture for this, but there's 3 levels. There's a technician. Here's how a business works, in short. Technicians are the hands-on guys. These are the skilled workers, okay? Now, above a technician is what's called a manager. A manager's job is just to, let me rewind. Okay, a technician's job is to wrangle skills. Okay. The manager's job is to wrangle the technicians, and the entrepreneur's job is to create the system that wrangles all of the below. Okay, so that's what business is. I'm trying to be an entrepreneur, not a technician. And I think that's where a lot of people get it confused. I'm not looking for a job in the music industry. I'm looking to create jobs. It's very different. So hopefully that makes sense. But not manager in the sense of like a music manager. We're talking about somebody who just organizes human capital. That's what I mean. Not like your traditional manager. Now let's humanize this a little bit. Let's hit the tool humanize, and let's hit, we can hit Alt S, but I don't think it needs this for the style. See how it's a little aggressive? Also, I like dropping the keys, so I hit shift down, 1, 2, 3. Now layering and arrangement would be, okay, I like this top line, but I don't want the same sound being the top line. I want something more transient heavy that has more of a ear gripping quality. So I might go to flex, and then I'll pull up a bell, for example, which are more transient bass sounds. Let's go to general MIDI. I'm moving kind of quick here because I already spent like 20 minutes explaining the music industry, but yeah, I don't want to discourage people either. This is what it sounds like once swapped out for a different instrument. So this would be your arrangement, or your voicing, it's called. We're just situating the different octaves with different instruments for the most part. Thank you, TBK. Yeah, everybody hates managers because managers are forced in the position. They're not really like, they didn't earn their position most of the time, and they want to control people, and they don't understand that's not how you run an organization, is to make people feel lesser than. But that's a very big theory. You could look up Six Sigma. There's different ways to like run a business, but I don't have a manager layer in my business. It's not that big. I'm trying to scale up through AI. If I could figure out how to scale up through AI, I'm straight. One day, Mark Zuckerberg is going to hit us with the AI agents, and I'm going to have a whole customer support team of just AI people. That would be the day. Because I mean, the questions I get in the customer support are the same questions. It's not anything new. Do the drum samples need to be in the same key? No. Melody is the other instruments, or is that default C? You don't need to tune your drums, especially for hip hop. Most drums are atonal anyway. Now, if you're doing like a tom drum, which is a tonal sound, or some kind of percussion sound that is tonal, like a cowbell, then you would tune it. But snares and kicks are usually not tuned. And 808 is tuned though. So somebody may ask, okay, how do we thicken this up? What we could do is take the bottom notes of all the chords. So you saw I took the top notes and I replaced it with a bell. Now what we're gonna do is take the bottom notes and replace it with a piano, a bass piano. So let's do flex. AI BusyWorks intro. All right, let's turn off the reverb here, limiter. And then we're gonna pull this down an octave and layer it with an octave up. And now we have a nice full sound. Now you can also with the bass add dun, dun, you know, little in between stuff. Dun, 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 dun. Deadmau5 always tunes his kicks. For EDM, I can see why, because their kicks are longer. It's not the same thing as a kick in hip hop. Like a kick in EDM, I'll show you what I mean here so that I'm not confusing you to death. Most of the time, a kick in EDM has a longer decay curvature over the pitch, it's called. So if I had a sine wave like this, and then I wanted to make this into some kind of kick, I would add a pitch envelope, over the pitch. So EDM kicks are more like that, where it's like, ew, like that. Let me make this more realistic. Hold up. They're like this. Most of the time, they're very long and they're almost like mid 808s and kicks combined. Whereas hip hop, the decay curvature is a lot quicker. And so you're not really getting the same tonal aspect of it because it's technically multiple pitches very fast. So I'm sure he probably does it. I mean, but you don't always need to do that because what does that even mean? It just means you're not being dissonant when it comes to EQ, but nothing really sits around the kick frequency wise when it comes to the mix. It just depends. There's so much that goes into that. Because if you, here, let me just explain the last part of what I said. If you open up FabFilter Pro Q3, you could actually put it into keyboard mode. So if in the bottom left, you could go to keyboard mode and you can see like the tuning of each frequency. So if I'm a kick drum at C1, for example, that might be too low actually. But let's just say C1 or C2, that's my kick drum. Most instruments aren't playing that low note to have any clashing. But if I were to play my kick drum tuned up a little bit, it would be C sharp and it'd be a little higher in frequency. So anything close to that would be dissonant. Going back to the intervallic resolution we talked about earlier, it would be dissonant. But most of the time in our songs, we're not putting things that close to each other in the bass to where you would even hear the dissonance. So that's what I mean. Since you were talking about kicks, why do kicks sound different and loud in the playlist compared to the channel rack? Because in the playlist, let me find a kick real quick. Let me see where it at. On my hard drive, why is this not pulling it up? Where are my sounds? Okay, let's just, I don't know why maybe my hard drive's not plugged up. So if we go to, oh, it's the wrong hard drive. That's why. Okay. Sounds. So the reason why your sound sounds louder in the playlist than it does in the channel rack is because in the playlist, FL Studio, hold up, y'all, I'm trying to find my thing. Here it is. Let's find an 808. So for example, this 808, if we drag it into the playlist, it's at 100% of its volume. Okay, so it's just gonna be super loud. In fact, sometimes I think it's even higher than 100%. I'm pretty sure it's higher than 100%, but let's just say it's 100%. If we put it into the channel rack, it lowers the channel volume. So it tells you in the top left, it says it subtracted 5 dB from the sound. So anytime you load a sound from your browser into the channel rack, it lowers it down 5 dB by default, which is about half. It will sound half as loud, basically. So that's why. And they do that so that you guys can have headroom and not just put everything in the clipping the whole way. Let's go through our melodies we made today. Did I give you guys enough value? Let me know. Yeah, I just want AI agents for customer support because it's so redundant. It's like there doesn't really need to be a human outside of like human problems, like small little things, but most time it's just like people not being able to log in or something. How do you put the turntable effect? You got to rewind it, Yahawada, because I did a pitch bend using what's called a different MIDI channel. You got to rewind the live stream where I do it. I'll show you why it works, because I have a pitch bend on one specific note. So it's creating the perception of a tape stop. It's just taking this note and pitch bending down to here. But the reason these are different colors is because Image Line plugins allow you to do this with different MIDI channels, they're called. So if you double click a note, change the note color. Anything with the other note color, it will talk to each other. So I have it on slide mode by double clicking. I made this a slide note, but it has to be the same colors as other note or else that won't work. And this only works with Image Line plugins. It does not work with third-party stuff. So that's where that pitch slide sound comes from. Do you plan on writing a book? I do have multiple books, which are free. Those are my 2 free books. that's the science behind melody. I think we did a pretty power-packed course for you guys today. I'll answer any kind of last remaining questions. You said, do I have any books? Yes, my 2 books. If you go to busyworksbeats.com/book, all you got to do is sign up for free with your name, your email. I asked for the phone number because I'm tired of people sending their fake email accounts. Because I have competitors and they try to like do evil stuff. So what I've done is I've added the mobile phone number so that my competitors can't just send me a bunch of fake traffic, send me a bunch of fake emails, which makes me pay real money every month. Okay, so that's why I have the mobile number, is to cut down on the junk, basically. People are more likely to give the real email if the mobile number is attached. So that's why I do that. Also, I offer a lot of value. But anyhow, so if you go to busyworksbeats.com/book, I have a book called The Producer Bible, and I have another one called Busy Signal. And I also give you the audiobook as well if you want to just listen to the audiobook. I think I'm going to have the AI reread my books, but I don't know if it can read all those pages. Have producer ops is a flex. Yeah, true. I don't know if it's a flex or if it's an annoyance, but I see what you're saying though. Dang, how did I miss all this? Dang main says, I can't thank you enough for existing. Thank you. And choosing to help us as musicians and creators. I've learned so much and progressed in ways I couldn't have on my own. Your Discord is really worth it. Thank you, dog. That's a dope testimonial. Thank you for hopping into the church congregation today. Let me save that one. I appreciate that. That's super dope. I'm just glad I can help because, again, as an educator, our main thing is like, are we helping? Or I'm trying to be helpful, but I don't know everybody's problem. We all have different problems that we're trying to solve. So I try to solve as many problems as possible, but also like keep people entertained. So that it's a very difficult task. What's the best technique for making emotional melodies for boom bap without sampling? So this whole live stream, you got to go rewatch because I talked about that. Emotion is really in which scale you pick for the most part. So for example, even using the same exact key, D minor, if I pull this up to E minor, we're going to get more of a melancholic feel. It's because E minor is the most depressing scale you have. F minor is more rebellious. Okay, so every scale has an energy behind it. I covered this in my music theory magic course, actually. So thank you. If you go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory magic, okay, if you go to that website, in the course I guide you through like the meta level of music. Like music, here's the meta level, and I'll just kind of briefly explain it. The point of music is to create an emotion. The emotion's job is to move somebody else, quite literally move them. Like when Jesus said you can speak to a mountain and make it move, that's a literal fact. So for example, right now they're using sound to move like objects. I forget the exact name for it, but they're sending sound waves out and pressure waves to move stuff. How do you move stuff? You know, it's because everything has what's called a natural frequency. If you guys know about the plugin Melodyne, Melodyne was founded because the owner of Melodyne, and I was told this by somebody higher up, but he said the founder of Melodyne, the creator of Melodyne, which is like autotune but on steroids, said that he was trying to find the frequency of a rock. Now, why would you try to find the frequency of a rock? Because if you know the frequency of a rock, you present it with its same frequency and you can move it energetically, quite literally. So that's why the cymatic experiments are important in a degree. But so I feel like I missed something in that whole story. Yeah, that's the key. Oh, so for example, there used to be, back in the day when they would construct a bridge, if the bridge is an energetic system, not Cymatics the company, cymatic experiments are different. This is when people put like sand on a speaker and they play the frequencies and they create different geometric shapes. Basically, form is created from frequency at certain frequencies. You create form out of chaos. So that's the importance of tuning. You go to different universes, basically. But I'm trying not to go so esoteric with y'all. Yeah, I don't know what the frequency of a rock is, but the goal is with bridges, for example, when you build a bridge, if you have a matching frequency of that bridge, and you send in energy from the outside, you can actually collapse a bridge by sending it its resonant frequency. If I could find something on Google, let me pull up some references here. Bridge resonant frequency. So once you understand that you're magicians, quite literally, when you study music, you'll realize how powerful you guys are. Tacoma bridge collapse, the wobbliest bridge, bridge resonance. So look up bridge resonance. What is the resonance frequency of a bridge? Nobody's going to tell you the frequency of a bridge. This is the frequency at which the structure naturally tends to oscillate if it is displaced from its equilibrium position. When a force that oscillates at this frequency, the resonance frequency, when a force that oscillates at this frequency is applied to the bridge, meaning if I find the frequency of a bridge and I create that same exact frequency in music, for example, okay, as applied to the bridge, it can cause the bridge to vibrate excessively. Why? Because you have something called wave interference. So in physics, even in high school physics, you guys probably learned wave interference. So you have positive values and you have negative values. So let me just quickly show you guys real quick. I have videos on that. More particular, I don't have that plugin on this computer. Let's go here to 3x OSC. What we're gonna do is pull down oscillators 2 and 3. Let's go to like a lower, some kind of lower tone. Cover a music theory course. I want to get started with producing. Just try it for free. It's completely free. If you don't like it, you get your money back. How about that? But I cover so much of music theory. It's not OD to where it's like, okay, I'm never going to use this, but it's like deeper though. Okay. So here we have a tone. Let me show you guys what wave interference is. So if I clone this and I play the same exact tone, it's going to double in volume because it's doubling in what's called amplitude. So here we have just one tone, and if I paste the same exact frequency, same exact timing, same shape, same everything, it gets louder. Now what happens if I flip the polarity of the second wave? I should get cancellation. So +1 - 1 equals 0. So let's flip 1, and now we get silence. Now if I flip the polarity back, we're going to get double the volume, but if I flip it back, we get silence. So wave interference is where does the wave perfectly line up with another wave? And when it perfectly lines up, does it cancel the wave out? Like does +1 meet -1, or does +1 meet another +1? Because if +1 meets another +1, we get positive wave interference, and then it amplifies a signal. So bridges collapse quite literally because an outside oscillation finds the natural frequency of the bridge, because everything's moving, nothing's still. So everything's moving, meaning it has a natural frequency. So if I find out the bridge's frequency is this, and then I introduce this at the same exact phase and the same exact, well, whatever amplitude, then the bridge will start going like this, because now it's doubled in the perceived, I'll say volume in this case, but in the power of that wave. So that's why we can move objects with frequency once we find the natural frequency of that specific sound. What's the best way to collab and send people? And people have frequencies, rocks have frequencies, mountains have frequencies. So that's the magic of music, is that we quite literally are moving people with frequency. It's a real thing. I've skipped back so I can't see what you're saying right now, but the facts, you got notes and are explaining things fully sets you apart big time. Thank you. I try to stay on target because sometimes I go off on tangents as I just did. But yeah, today I tried to be more structured with the Melody Masterclass. I just hope that I delivered for y'all. One last thing I forgot to show you guys is effects. What are some things you cover? But yeah, I have videos on all the stuff you guys are asking. What's the best way to collab and send people using different DAWs? Your zip loop package? Yeah. Because zip loop package includes all the audio files from your session. Whereas if you sent them to FLP, it does not include the audio tracks. Now, if they don't have the plugins, then they still can't open up the plugins though. You're gonna have to export what are called multi-tracks, so that way they get the sounds in wave format plus the zip loop package. That way any plugins they don't have, they get loaded up the waveform. All right, so now let's add effects and then we'll wrap this up. So here's the guitar. It already has, it sounds like reverb and chorus on it, so let's turn that off. Here's just the default sample. Now I'm going to show you guys a couple plugins that I just really like. It's called Kilohertz Essentials. One is called Bit Crush. This is not for you could add the ringy tone like this. It's funny you just said what are some good plugins for texture, because this is one. Now we could do the ring thing, but I don't like that tone, so we could turn up what's called DAC quality. It will get rid of that ring and do true like sample rate reduction, and then we can right click and change out the sample rate. So I like to start at 40 kilohertz or 20 kilohertz is cool. And I like to do 12 bits, so I right click, go to 12. That's the MPC settings, MPC 60. You might not hear a big difference in the tone, but it does shave off some higher frequencies doing that, and it adds a little bit of noise if the lower you go with the bit rate. So now let's add some kind of pitch shifting. Now I think on the actual thing we transposed it down 3, so let's pull it back up 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, we went up. Yeah, I have like 2000 VSTs. It's getting pretty wild. So let's do pitch shifter. Pull this down 3 semitones. This is what I like to do to get out of my mental like box of writing melodies. I'll switch up the key. This also adds a grain size. I have videos on that for vocals and everything. I have videos on that. It would take way too long to cover it right now. But you gotta get Auto-Tune Pro. Actually, just Auto-Tune EFX might be good enough. So now we have the tone, so here's before. Here's after. Now here I'm gonna widen the sound with some delay or reverb. Let's do just regular reverb. So again, you guys know the rest of the effects from here, and then we could do Kilohertz Reverse. This is a pretty unique plugin here. I would only recommend this though for like slower BPM. So if I right click, go to half speed on the tempo, it will play everything half speed. Cool. So here, flipping back. Okay, so we can make this millisecond mode, and we can add it as a texture here. Creates more of a like Travis Scott type sound. Switch it back. It's called forward back looping. And there's nothing else really to do with this sound outside of maybe glitching it. I don't have the glitch plugin on here, but you guys can also mess with gross beat. And they have presets. If you go to preset, go to pitch shifter or go to stutter, either one. Now it does add a lot of clicking, so I don't use this too much. But you could also go to momentary and add different effects. Like half speed, blend that in. Now because we're doing triplets, half speed on a triplet just makes it a little confusing with the timing. But now we're adding that contrast layer underneath with the half speed sound. So it thickens out the sound a little bit. So that's how you create a unique texture for your sound. Now again, here's before. The music is good, but now here's with the effects. So that's how you guys add more of a custom sound. I'm running out of energy here, so I gotta potentially wrap this here. I appreciate everybody for being super solid. And if you could just smash the like button on the way out. But again, there's a melody course. So again, we pretty much covered intervallic resolution today. I'll play the melodies on the way out. And I hope to maybe live stream later maybe. So appreciate you guys.